And it's compulsive enough to be watching the news and posting things like I do. And I get a sense of importance, and I get a sense of contribution, and some noble, selfless things, and some very egotistical things, and it's all in the mix. It's compulsive enough to do that. But doing it when I'm grinding my gears, when the screws have been stripped on me, and I can feel myself just burrowing towards a crash, that has no integrity. In a much more literal sense, it's like a wheel that has one spoke slightly bent.
Welcome to the Holistic Life Navigation Podcast, where we explore life through the lens of somatics. I'm Luis Mojica, a somatic educator who teaches people how to find safety in themselves. Your turn to learn begins now. I'm just going to lead us in a settling before we begin, before I introduce you to everybody that's doing this with me. If you don't know them yet, it feels important to first really feel where our bodies are, and then we'll get started. So the first thing I want you to try with me is just taking a break from the screen, like looking away. And when you look away, really notice your chest, your shoulders, your belly, your face muscles. Notice that line. And then look back at the screen and notice it again for a couple seconds, and look away again. I really want you to feel what happens. It's different for everybody. When I look at the screen, there's the slightest tension in my stomach, just the slightest, and like a focusing in my eyes that starts, and a little tension with that. Then I look away and it just drops. It's like a sudden drop. That's really important information. And we'll go into why later, but just noticing that, and then really taking in the space you're in, like looking all around the room, making sure you're somewhere you want to be right now. You might not be able to control where you are. Some of you might be in public somewhere, but wherever you are, where do you want to be in that room? Do you want to be in the corner? Do you want to lay down? Do you want to stand? Do you want to sit? Like, what do you want to do to feel you're most comfortable as we go into this together? Because sessions like this have the potential for incredible connection and grounding and ease in our bodies, but we have to come into them with our bodies to let that happen. So really, really consider where your body is right now as we come into this together. And just see if you can feel the thing that's holding you, or the ground beneath your feet, or whatever is giving you support, just to feel it. And if your body's actually receiving the support, or if it's tensing away from the support. And you don't have to make it relax. This is not about making your body relax. This is just about learning where it is right now. Okay? And then, like, if you aren't looking at the computer or the screen, whatever you're on, come back gently and just, again, take a look, find the way you want to be here. You can look at, there's a reactions button at the bottom. You can use emojis anytime you want. I really like those. They help me see what the feelings are, whether you're laughing or crying or putting up hearts or thumbs up or thumbs down, like whatever it is you're feeling. I encourage that. So feel free to emote any way you want to through those. It can be really nice. So I'm going to introduce myself and the intentions, of why we're here, and then I'll introduce my two co-hosts who are doing this with me, and then we're going to just do some explorations together. I'm really excited. So my name's Luis Mojica. I'm sure a lot of you know me already, but many of you might not. I'm not sure if you found me through Daniel or through my work, but I'm a somatic therapist, and at this point, more of a somatic educator. And this is what I do. This is really how I spend my time. I do large virtual and in-person groups, really just teaching people how to come back to their bodies and how to befriend their bodies, regardless of what the situation is. Can I be in my body and move through the situation from my body, right? And that's what I'm going to be really inviting us to do tonight or today, depending on where you are, what time it is. And first, I'll introduce you to my team. so you understand the roles they play. My team tends to travel everywhere with me and really help make these sessions special. So you're not just staring at a few people talking, but there's living beings you can relate to through the chat if you need to. So if you look at the chat, we don't have a public chat for a very good reason. It can be very dysregulating. And for me as a teacher with extreme unmedicated ADHD, if a chat is going off, I will never get a sentence out, I promise. So I turn the chat off so I can focus. But if you need some co-regulation, if you need someone to talk to or ask a question or even just present something to, Marika and Evan are going to be holding that space in this session. So I'm going to ask Marika to unmute and introduce herself, and you can see her, and then you can your co-host. Go ahead, Marika.
Hi, everyone. I'm Marika. I work with Louise, and yeah, you're welcome to presence anything you need to with me in chat. And so just look for my name if you need to. I'm happy to be here.
And then we have Evan.
Hi, everyone. My name is Evan. I'm the admin assistant here at HLM. And if you ever send an email to info@Holistic Life Navigation, that is me. And yeah, I'm totally here if you would like to send me any chat messages.
Thank you both. So yeah, chat with them anytime you need to through this. And there's going to be times I'll even ask for feedback, which you can write to them and they'll speak for you anonymously. We'll be doing that throughout different moments. So one of my wonderful co-hosts, Camille Leek, is also a big part of our team. I'm going to let her step forward and give her intentions of why she's here and how she will be facilitating with us.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Camille. I'm on the HLN team. I'm the community manager and I am an assistant teacher. So I support Luis in a lot of his events, like today. And my intentions for this space. That's a good question. Really, I'm here to share how I navigate global crises in general and how that has shifted over the course of my life and how that shift has impacted me.
Thank you, Camille. And then I want to welcome my friend and co-host Daniel Maté, who really inspired me to do this, which I'll go into a little more. So Daniel, if you want to come off mute and introduce yourself and tell us your intentions, that'd be great.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Luis. Hi, Camille. My name is Daniel Maté. I am based in Brooklyn, New York, as the red brick behind me attests. Originally from Canada. I write musical theater. I co-write books with some guy, my father. And I'm also a mental chiropractor, which is a term someone gave to me and a discipline that I made up, where I take walks with people and help them with specific situations, shifting the fundamental point of view that's giving them their experience of stuckness. And that's relevant to this conversation here today, because it's two things. Number one, that's very important. The mindset that we're in from which we view things. And that only goes so far. And the somatic side of things is not my specialty. And since I've met Luis and have been working with him, I've been finding that it really, really invigorates and balances out and empowers the work that I do. And as many of you know, on social media, especially on Instagram, I have stepped into, without having really meant to, a growing platform where I've been doing Instagram lives talking about what's currently going on the other side of the ocean. And I'm not here today to stand on any sort of soapbox. None of us are. My soapbox is full of soap. Over on Instagram, I'll be doing an Instagram live tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern. That's not what I'm here for. In fact, I'm here for a GD break from it. Partly, and to hold myself accountable for doing this in the right way, in a way that is sustainable. And that's selfish, and it's also in line with my intention, because I want to make a difference in the world. And if I either burn out or flip out, which are very real risks of doing what I'm doing, I'm helping no one, and I'm sidelining myself. And I've got a whole lot of other things in my life that I'm up to that I want to be present for. So I'm always learning from Luis whenever we speak. And sometimes I'm learning things that I didn't know. And sometimes I'm learning things that I didn't know I knew. And I'm just looking forward to that. And if I can be a demonstration of someone with very strong opinions and a very, very robust intellectual life and a very active, bordering on compulsive social media game right now, who is willing to submit himself to the rigors and the kindnesses of this work, I'm very happy to do that.
Thank you, Daniel. It's beautiful. So I want to just take a pause and let us feel all that for a moment. You know, attuning to my team who's here to support you through this, attuning to Camille, who's going to be holding the space with me, and Daniel. What's very special about this for me is what Daniel just said. So Camille and I, self-proclaimed pacifists. You don't have to agree with us, and we're not looking for any. There's no right or wrong way in our minds, but we're like, well, we're always teaching people how to be in their body from being pacifists. It feels really great to have someone who's very active, very outspoken, has a very particular stance, and like he said, bordering compulsive, relating to Instagram and his platform, to do this work with us, because the cognitive dissonance around getting still, going within, comes from these overcouplings that if you go within, it means you deny and walk away from injustice. And that's not how I see any of this in life. I see we go within when there's crisis so we can connect to our capacity, and then from there we act in the way that's congruent with our capacity. And that's full of our integrity. What's true for us? What's the true way we want to act and express? We were talking about this last night with our incredible members about goodness and the idea of quantifying goodness. And I was posing this question about how I wonder, and I'm speaking as an American, being bathed in a system that's very much about capital, very much about productivity, if we quantify our goodness because of that, like if we can actually almost have the audacity to think someone is more good than I am because they're doing more, or they're doing it this way that I'm not, I'm less good, you're more good, you're less good. When do we start quantifying goodness? And so I was feeling into that, and I was noticing with this work, and just like what Daniel just said, he was saying, I want to do it the right way. And I heard I want to do it in a congruent, way that's within my integrity and honoring my body so I don't burn out, right? I heard him say it, but not burning out. That's important. Your goodness moves through you, though, based on your capacity. I should say the form your goodness takes is related to your capacity. So I first wanted us to kind of feel that and just hear that. So we can start playing with, there's no right way to be good in the world. There's my way, and it relates to my capacity. And it can't always be quantified. Sometimes it's very mysterious. I don't know what a passing smile could do to somebody. I don't know. And this is what took me to want to do this with Daniel today. I follow Daniel. He's a friend of mine, someone I greatly respect. I also learn a ton from. And what interests me was a video he posted where he was talking about helplessness. And helplessness that's the work I do. I sit with people in their helplessness. That's what I've done for years. I never named it till this week, thanks to Daniel. But I sit with people in their helplessness. That's the scariest place to sit, is in the place where you have no control over something, whether it's a cancer diagnosis, whether it's the conflict between Palestine and Israel, whether it's a climate issue, something I don't have direct control over. I can have input, I can affect change. I don't have direct control over it. That's the scariest thing for us humans to experience. Super vulnerable, heartbreaking, does so much inside of us, right? The charge of helplessness. I've never in my entire life heard an activist, and I apologize for these terms, Daniel, I'm just saying what's coming to mind. I never in my life heard someone who's being active. I should say someone who's being opinionated. I've rarely heard someone who's standing on their opinions simultaneously invite helplessness into the conversation. That's very rare. And that's what I love about Daniel is we can play with these things that would formerly be too dissonant to play with. Like the two can't go together. And it's from our helplessness, from that vulnerability, where a lot of our actions emerge from in a reflexive way through trauma response. And those are the activists or the opinionators or the good doers, whatever we want to call them, that will end up burning out because it's their helplessness that's propelling them out of fear and desperation, rather than I'm with my helplessness and I'm acting, having both in the body at once. And that's what we're going to be exploring today. Just like Daniel said, we're going to explore a demo where I'm going to work with him in front of all of you to see what meanings he holds, how they're affecting his body, and how that might work its way out or through. And we'll all get to see that, which is very generous of you, Daniel. And I'll be teaching all of you some somatic practices for how you stay in your body, how we hold helplessness while we're witnessing things we don't have direct change or direct action to change. Okay. So let's just pause and feel for a moment. I'm really big with pillows. Like, what is that? What does that even mean? I love using pillows for embodiment. So if you have a pillow nearby, if you have a jacket or a sweater or just your hands, you can put it over, one hand on the chest, one hand on the belly, or a pillow over both of it. You have to go to another room, go for it. A pillow is going to get you through the session like nothing else. It's amazing. The most accessible form of somatic therapy is a pillow. And so first, before I even go forward, I'm going to invite Camille for a moment to speak. But before she brings this in, just holding that pillow for a moment. This is the beginning of all of you practicing. I'm doing it with you too. I'm just doing it with my hands. Really notice there's two things that happen here. There's the pillow. That's the one thing. How does your body perceive the pillow? Really notice that slight difference. How does it perceive the pillow? Can it perceive the pillow? Sometimes your hand has to slowly pet it to feel the texture, or you have to press it a little bit, or you have to squeeze it or move it to different areas of your chest or belly or lap. How does your body perceive it? What parts can breathe a little deeper? What parts can soften? What parts constrict? What parts refuse to perceive? That's what we call numbness. It's the body refusing to perceive because there's too much to deal with. It's like, nope, not going to go there. So this is not to force your body to have any feel. There's no trick here with the pillow. It's a true, honest question. How does your body perceive that pillow there? I'm going to give us a good 30 seconds of silence just to notice. And I'm already seeing some of this, but if any movement emerges, tears are movements, yawning is a movement, sound, stretching, looking around, standing up, your belly might grumble. These are all ways the body starts to move. So notice if any movement is already happening or wants to happen as you interact with the pillow. And you don't have to. So no judgment here if you're not moving, but just see if any movement wants to emerge. We're just getting to know our bodies a bit before we go into this. And what this is teaching you all is what I mean and what Camille means if she says this, but we teach this a lot about finding safety in yourself. What that means. It's not semantics. It's a biological experience where here's the pillow. Can my body perceive the pillow? That's what safety is. Safety is when your body can perceive the non-threat in your environment. So we tend to think the environment has to be safe so I can be safe. Think about everyone's environment right now that I can see on the screen. I don't know people I can't see, but if you look around the room you're in, you can visually take in the proof that there's not a threat right now. Maybe outside the door there is, maybe in an hour there is, but right now you can look around and visually see nothing here is threatening me in this moment. But can your body perceive that? That's what I'm talking about. Because just like Daniel was saying, I wrote it down, mindset. Mindset creates meaning and perception. And that's what we're working with physiologically when I'm talking about staying embodied through global crisis. It means what I witness, my body experiences as if it's happening to me. And I'm also very aware that a handful of you, either here now or watching the replay, reached out. Some of you that are in Palestine, some of you are in Israel. So I'm very aware that you are in an environment that doesn't feel safe, and I want to honor that. I'm in America. My experience is totally different from yours right now. So I say that with respect when I talk about non-threat. I'm also aware some of you outside your window, there could be a real threat. And let your eyes show you right now what you have, or feel your breath or the pillow, like I was saying. And I'll also say it feels important just for me to say this since I'm facilitating this. Regardless of where you're from, you're welcome here right now. There's a lot of divisiveness. There's a lot of fear. There's a lot of overcouplings about who people are right now based on where they live or their religion or what they're believing. I personally welcome you all. So just know that you're just as important here as anyone else is. And I'm really happy that you're all here. Camille, I wanted to move to you to see what you might want to add to this, and then we're going to move to Daniel.
Yeah, to give a little context about how I'm approaching this, I support Luis as a somatic educator, but I came into somatics by way of being a diversity, equity, and inclusion practitioner. And one of the things that I find particularly fascinating about our responses when these types of national or global events take place is, like Luis was saying, how the helplessness can manifest. And in a lot of cases, we can move away from our own personal experiences to speaking on behalf of collectives or focusing on what needs to change outside of ourselves, or feeling like we cannot be safe or happy or settled until that thing is fixed. And I even personally experienced this. I'm a Black woman in the United States, so racism is a very real thing. It's something I personally deal with. I will navigate for all of my life. My children will navigate for all of their lives, and so on. Racism didn't surprise me, but after the birth of my first child, he was born in December of 2015. When he was around 6 months old, I just found myself sobbing uncontrollably. And that's really out of character for me. It just wasn't something I did. But I would just be in these random places and spaces, and I would just start sobbing and crying, and I couldn't figure out what it was. Now, during this time in the news, it was being highlighted about several Black Americans being detained, assaulted, or killed by police officers or other citizens. And I figured, like, maybe I'm just really feeling these things even more. Again, these events have happened throughout my life, but maybe they're just really more intense because now I'm a mom, and maybe it's that mama bear coming in, and I'm just more protective of my children. But that wasn't it. That wasn't it. But what I realized, what came to my awareness, is I wasn't angry about racism and police brutality. Now, I just wasn't scared of it. What I was feeling was guilt. I felt guilty for choosing to bring a Black child into this world, knowing what they would have to experience. And as I began to relate to and explore that guilt, that shifted the way I perceived and engaged with racist events going forward or police brutality going forward. It was a different noticing in my body to go within and notice what am I experiencing? What am I actually responding to? It wasn't just the system of racism, but my own guilt for choosing to bring a Black child into this world.
And what's important about that for me is it highlights what I'm starting to introduce you all to, which is what's happening inside my body in response to my environment. And does my body collapse? Does it constrict? Does it adrenalize? Does it lose sleep because it's waiting for the environment to subside so I can take a breath? Or can I take a breath while the environment's the same and then respond to it from taking a breath, right? So I'm really wanting us to see that's part of what Camille is bringing here is things that used to cause her to collapse don't anymore. And her environment hasn't necessarily changed. The situations haven't changed. How her body responds to them has changed. And when there's crises, there's urgency. And when there's empathy with crises, there's urgency, even if you're not experiencing the crisis directly. So we want to honor that when urgency is involved, we tend to lose our actual body. We can't feel it because something else takes over. And that's what makes disembodiment so common during crises, particularly a global crisis, one that isn't in your exact environment. Because when the crisis is here, there's an action here. It's happening to you. You're having the thing that propels you, what we call trauma response, is congruent with your reality. And strangely enough, that can resolve some of the charge, even more than someone who's looking at it and can't do anything about it and feeling helpless. That's why I'm bringing helplessness in here. The helplessness is the charge that none of us are really speaking about. And that's why when Daniel spoke about it, I really wanted to do this. So Daniel, I'd love for you, if you want to riff on the helplessness a little bit, or anything else coming up for you just around what we're saying so far from your own perspective in your body.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Well, one of the lovely things about having you here is I feel more at ease. I feel less pressure to keep checking in with my body because you will remind me to. It's not my first language, and there's going to be a bit of translation going on here. I can't front like I'm a somatic practitioner or an expert on this stuff. I can start from where I am, and but because of you, I'm learning the language. So it's going to be, like someone speaking in non-fluent French or something like that. The first thing that popped out to me that what you said before I'll talk about the helplessness, but there's a few things I wanted to respond to. The first thing that struck me about what you said, you mentioned the word integrity. And I think it's helpful to broaden or diversify our understanding of what that word can mean. Usually when we think of integrity, we think of it as a strength of character or moral rectitude, if that's the word. Sort of having principles and sticking to them. In other words, integrity is a good thing. You should have integrity. You shouldn't not have integrity. People with integrity are more upstanding than people without it, et cetera, et cetera. I posted something less than an hour ago about a huge discrepancy that I noticed about a particular political figure from where they used to be on this issue to where they are now. And I may have, and if I didn't, I meant this person has no integrity. And that's what I meant. However, that alone is a very limiting, and I would venture to say somatically constricting meaning of that word. And it's not even the original meaning. In French, if you're ordering whole wheat toast, that's pain intégral, integral, which means whole and complete with nothing missing and nothing added. So integrity is something cohering, which gives us the word coherent also. So many of these words I love, they have a physical, somatic dimension, you could say, and they have a conceptual, intellectual, moral dimension. So wholeness and completion, missing nothing. So if I think about what it would mean to do what I aspired to do, what I mentioned earlier, which is to pursue this, whatever the hell it is I'm doing out there on social media with integrity, yes, it would mean being true to my principles. And that's normally how I hold it. I'm like, and that leads to guilt, and that leads to, or at least a sense of deficiency. Like, oh, damn, I'm out here preaching about like compassion, and then sometimes I link it to my work with my father, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm not being very compassionate, and what kind of an example am I being, and so on and so forth. That's the kind of integrity meaning that leads me immediately to lay a trip on myself, and that has a correlate in the body. Whatever that is, I'm sure we'll explore that. But if I think about it in terms of wholeness and completion, it's just so much more expansive. It means I want to do this work, leaving no part of me behind and adding nothing to the work that would pollute it. So earlier today, I went and got a massage, right? Well, one way of framing that is like self-care, which to me, capitalism takes these nice sounding terms and turns them into consumer products. So when I hear self-care, I think of like treat yourself, like that whole meme from from Parks and Rec, right? Just a kind of self lavishing, whatever, bubble baths and whatnot. But actually, if I look at it through the lens of integrity, what I was doing was restoring integrity to a body that was severely depleted when I woke up this morning. And when I met a friend for tea, who's the one who said to me, okay, we're going to go hug a tree now, and you're going to go pet a puppy, and you're going to go get a massage, because she could see that I was soul sick. I was tired. I was depleted. And persisting in it's compulsive enough to be watching the news and posting things like I do. And I get a sense of importance, and I get a sense of contribution, and some noble, selfless things, and some very egotistical things, and it's all in the mix. It's compulsive enough to do that. But doing it when I'm grinding my gears, when the screws have been stripped on me, and I can feel myself just burrowing towards a crash, that has no integrity. In a much more literal sense, it's like a wheel that has one spoke slightly bent. You can ride it for a while, but you know what's going to happen. So that's a much more freeing way of looking at integrity for me. And it's free. How do I know it's freeing? Because my body relaxes. Just like when I look away from the screen, I noticed exactly what you said, Luis. My face got more horizontal, almost like my eyes got further apart. I had a wider view. I looked at the screen, boom, like that. Camille, I really appreciate what you said about guilt, because I hadn't considered that one of the things that could be in the background for me of my activism on this. And by the way, Louise, when you said, it's rare to see an activist or a person who's active, reflect. I thought to myself, well, in fairness, I'm an exhibitionist first and an activist second. But even that, I'll come back to that. Camille, the guilt. Well, I went to a Zionist summer camp as a kid, and I'm not going to get into all that right now. But I've been aware of this stuff for a long time. This is not some new awakening. And I lived in Israel for 10 months on a kibbutz. And then I spent close to 30 years completely inactive on it, alienated from it, over it kind of, or paying attention from a distance. So I can feel in me a certain kind of like, I've got to right that wrong. I got to be accountable. I got to hold myself. There's another word that just goes haywire when our egos get a hold of it, right? So that's good to be aware of too. It's like trying too hard to prove something that I can never prove, to rectify something I can never rectify, and to apologize for something no one asked me to apologize for. So I appreciate you putting that in the space. And lastly, about the exhibitionist thing in terms of me being here and demonstrating, what was interesting was when I had that thought, which was kind of a joke, right? I'm an exhibitionist first, I'm an activist second, and jokes are my mind is just a joke factory, taking dissonance and, it's the jazz chords, it's the crunchy cluster, it's the things that clash. It's why I love later Joni Mitchell as opposed to early Joni Mitchell, because you and me both, right, Luis? Like all these cool, funky, jazzy, clustery, dissonant chords that are nonetheless beautiful. But when I unpacked that, what made it dissonant was that was right around the time you told us to grab the pillows. And when I grabbed the pillow was like, lean into me and curl up and hide from these people. And I was like, but I don't want to hide from these people. I'm about to demonstrate how open and grounded I am. This is going to be great. Look at all these people who tuned in. This is a massive marketing opportunity. I mean, all the stupid fucking thoughts that go through the head. But the pillow and the body that was embracing it was saying, this is not casual to be doing this. This takes something. And yes, we choose to do it, but there is a voice in me that says, I don't want people to look at me. I haven't even looked at it myself. You know what I'm saying? And so to go onto the public stage, pretending that there's no part of me that wants to do anything but step on the public stage, also lacks integrity. I'm leaving a part of me off stage. And I'm telling him, don't spoil the show. Don't spoil the illusion. And that is at opposition with my calling in life, which is to make things crystal clear and to bust up illusions and to help people dissolve problems, not solve them, but dissolve them. So just, again, such a remarkable thing I find when I work with you. You give a simple physical instruction. My body responds and my mind immediately responds and expands and gets more fulsomely intelligent, which means more creative, more flexible, more supple, more able to be appropriate to what's called for, more able to be of genuine use and not imposing my own script on the outside world and projecting and all the other things that trip us up in trying to make the difference that we're here to make. How's that?
Taking it in. Really beautiful. I just want to have a pause so we can all feel where that takes us in our bodies. I'm really grateful that you expanded on integrity, because that's everything Daniel just said about integrity is my experience of integrity. It's not about goodness, and it's not even about wholeness in the way of like ever becoming complete. It's about being open to all those parts of you that might contradict, and to hear the request. Like he heard the request where his body was saying, don't look at me. That's a request from his body. Part of him says, don't look at me. Another part says, here I am generously reporting my inner landscapes to these people. That would cause cognitive dissonance for most of us if we don't have our bodies. When our bodies get involved, this capacity opens, and suddenly, I was talking to a friend earlier about this, we become these walking compost heaps where there's just all these different things that seemingly would contradict or not belong that are belonging. And not just do they belong, they make us more fertile. They make us more creative, just like he said, more supple, more alive, more empathic, more flexible, even more understanding. And imagine whether you're an activist or you're opinionated or you're a pacifist, whatever you are, the theme here is witnessing horror, witnessing crisis, experiencing crisis. Doing that from a place that is more flexible, more understanding, more supple, more creative, that's a fertile, nourishing place from which to witness and experience these inevitable things that we will experience till we die globally, especially the more connected we become. And that was another part of what Daniel said on his video that really moved me. It's been less than a century that these nervous systems have been propelled into the witnessing of many events from all around the world within like a 1 hour segment. Or now on social media, within like 5 minutes of scrolling, you've seen 20 different lands, and you've seen the beauty and you've seen the brutality on these lands. That's a lot for a nervous system to endure. We haven't ever practiced that. This is a practice. We're experimenting what it means to be more connected. And it's like, what does that feel like? Not just what do we see or what are we witnessing, but how's our body responding to what we're witnessing? And what Daniel just said about, I want to show up and be really grounded and open and exhibit. That's his desire. That's what he wants. Where's his body? And this is this thing that I teach a lot about. Capacity and desire are two different things. Capacity is how your body is biologically responding to where you are right now. So all of you right now, pendulate back to yourself, maybe take a break from the screen if you need to. If the screen is settling, stay with it. Take a break if not. Notice the difference when you take a break. Notice what happens in your biology. What softens? What happens with your breath? What do your face muscles do? Okay, that's your capacity. When your body is constricting, when it's shutting down, when it's overwhelmed, when it's getting numb, it's telling you you're getting to your capacity for what? Sensation. Sensation is biochemical. That means when I look at something and I have a feeling, that feeling is physical. To have a feeling means a hormone must be made from my glands to even create the feeling. There's a whole chemistry project happening in these bones just from looking at something beautiful or sad or funny or violent, right? So to feel something means there's a physical something happening, and my body physically has to handle that. Just like if you ate food and you have to digest a really big meal, your body has to metabolize the really big stress response that comes from taking in crisis. Okay. That metabolic process is different for everyone. It's dependent on the health of your liver. It's dependent on your blood sugar. It's dependent on your neurons and the health of your nerve cells. It's dependent on your kidneys. It's physical, it's literal. It has to actually digest through these systems. How many bowel movements you have. If you eat a lot of stimulating foods, there's like so many factors. So everyone, hormones, where the moon is, how much sleep you got. There are so many factors. Temperature outside. All these factors influence your capacity to metabolize sensation. So I'm just going to pause so we can feel that for a minute and check in as I say that. What's your body telling you right now? Notice. And just take a pause. And notice when you notice your body, how it might want to move. We're so used to not moving our bodies. It might want to stretch. Might want to take a breath. I want to go, oh, might want to throw the pillow. Like it might want to have some kind of expression. Just play with whatever it is. There's no wrong expression here, that's for sure, especially with the body. So this is the felt sense of your capacity. Some of you will notice, oh, I feel so settled. You have capacity to be here. Others will notice this is really hard to follow. Your body's saying, I have low capacity for this. That might mean you have to leave and watch the replay. It might mean you have to close your eyes. There are many ways to renegotiate experiences so you have capacity, but that's capacity. It's physical. This is why in the beginning, when I was talking about quantifying goodness, it makes no sense to tell someone how to show up or be good, because you're literally telling them what they should be able to do physically, and it's different for everybody. Now we go to desire. That's what I want. That's what I should do. That's who I think I am. That's the meaning making, the mindset even that Daniel brought up earlier. Opinions, that's up in the mental realm. What we want to do in this part of this practice I'm teaching you with embodying yourself while experiencing or witnessing global crisis is feel the relationship between your desire and your capacity. How you desire to show up, what you desire happens in the world, what you desire other people to feel or think or believe, that's there, honor that. How does your body experience that? And I wrote down something Daniel said, how do I know it's freeing? My body relaxes. That's the key right there. When my shoulders come down, when I can take a deeper breath, when I suddenly feel more here, my body's telling me, whatever I just believed, whatever I just did, whatever just happened, something in me liberated, right? We're liberating our charge. So just pausing again so you can just notice your body, really feel where it is, see what you're feeling, see what you're noticing. Two more things I'm going to touch on because then I actually want to go into the demo with Daniel. We'll take a short break before the demo so everyone can have a stretch in the bathroom and get water if they need to. But just two more things I want to add. Daniel's going to add something quick after that, and then we're going to take a little break and do a demo. Okay. And then I'll do a practice with all of you. And then we'll do some hearing where you are, probably through a chat. I don't think I'm going to do voice shares this time, but I might change my mind. I don't know. We'll see. Restoring integrity felt really important to me when he said that. So if we think about integrity as my many different parts being with me, that's what I'm restoring. So I'm actually inviting the places that have gone into exile inside of me to join me. So if I'm an activist, if I'm a pacifist, if I'm frozen in the corner, if I'm doing a Zoom call, if I'm raising kids, like whatever it is you're doing as you're navigating global crisis and experiencing it, right? What do you need to restore your integrity while you're doing that? How do you bring those parts with you? How can the vulnerable, sad heartbreak exist while your child is laughing? How can you look at beauty without the crippling guilt that someone else is losing their home? How do we hold these parts together? That's what interests me. And that was the guilt piece that both Camille and Daniel brought in. And I love that he went there about, in my history, in my personal lineage on this planet, there's a crumb, there's a thing that lives in me that ignites the apology no one asked for. I'm overcompensating for something I feel guilty about or something I once belonged to or don't belong to. That piece that he just said, all of us can find that in ourselves in something, where there's something we're trying to mend inside through the actions we're doing in the world. Not even as an activist, just the job you have. I know for me, I thought it was my job in this lifetime to make everybody happy. That's why I became a therapist. That motivated it. So it's noticing where are those little crumbs inside of you that you're unaware of that are propelling you into the expressions, the work you're doing, how you're showing up. To make yourself aware of those is brilliant. As Daniel moves into the world with like a felt sense with that guilt and a relationship to it, it will change his integrity as he shows up to these experiences. Daniel, what do you want to add?
Only this, that I said at the beginning that, in my mental chiropractic work, I don't do the somatics. But what's interesting is the somatics assert themselves all the time. So I walk with people. That's the methodology by which I deliver it. We take a walk together in person, or much more likely, since my clients are all over the world, by phone. That's why it's called Take a Walk with Daniel. And the first part of the walk is setting an intention for the walk. And I take as long as it needs to do this. And I have a certain benchmark for knowing when the intention has been set. And I have a very specific meaning of what I mean by intention. I won't get into that now. But it's not a wish list. It's not an action plan. It's not a game plan. It's not an aspiration. It's not goal setting. It's just the ability to say, here's what I'm here for. Here's the qualities or states or values or the things that are animating this walk. This is why I'm doing this for the next hour and 15 or whatever. And to get there, to that pristine, clear, concise statement, my intention for this walk is, most often I have to go through a whole lot of twists and turns with people as their mind qualifies the intention and says, my intention is to be more at peace. And then we have to take the more out, or to be connected like I used to be. And then we have to take the used to be out of it. Taking all of the stuff that the mind adds because it thinks it's helpful, these crutches. And I can hear when they say it that nothing is transforming in the stating of the intention. It's just kind of an idle, yeah, that sounds good, or boy, I really need that, or whatever. But nothing shifts as a function of declaring it. But the minute we get it down to its essence, and for some people it takes the entire hour and 15 minutes to get there, and in which case they get their that's worth the price of admission. The minute they're able to state it and put a period at the end of it and pause the way Luis always has us and me do. It's the one thing I always, I do everything but pause. But the minute they can do that, first of all, I hear a change in their voice. And then I say, did you get that memo? Did you hear yourself say that? And they say, yes. And I say, what's your experience in this moment? And to a person, there's some form of, if the intention was clarity, I feel clear. If the intention was power, I feel grounded. I feel my feet on the ground. My shoulders just relaxed. My chest just expanded. My face just, kind of opened up. Or it happens in the outside environment. Oh my God, the sun just came out. Or this incredibly colored duck just swam by in the lake I'm walking near. And they notice, it's not just that the duck might have been there, but they notice it. Their perceptions, their feelings align with their intentions as clearly articulated, and the body keeps that score, like chalk one up for the intention, which means they get a down payment on the intention immediately. It's not something they have to wait for. They get a taste of it, and then we can go looking for the rest. So just to say that I encounter every time I work with somebody, the somatic receptivity to the mind being honed and refined to a place where it is speaking the language the body can understand, because the body doesn't understand, I want to be more happy. The body doesn't understand comparison. So that's just a discovery that I keep making. And it's always fun when I can realize, because I used to think somatics wasn't for me. But working with Luis, this is not an infomercial for his work. You guys are already sold. But in terms of the value of what we're doing here, even my body can respond to new ways of perceiving, then I know it's true for everybody.
And
that's it.
Why
that was a bit roundabout, but there you go.
No, that's why I really wanted you here and to do this with you. I mean, you were the one that said we should explore this. I'm like, yeah, let's do it. Let's do a Zoom. Because I wanted people to see someone do somatics who wasn't so rooted in somatics and a pacifist. Like Camille and I are like the poster people for somatics. So it's like, okay, yeah, it's like big deal, right? But it's really good to see someone who's new to it, who, like you're very opinionated, very intellectual, to show us that anyone can do this, that someone that really loves their mind and can lead with their mind. The body is just waiting for us to see it. It's just waiting. It's not even anything to learn. It's about unlearning. Like Daniel said, the pause. I do anything but pause. That's exactly it. When we learn to bring in the pause, Something happens. And a lot of you have been feeling it on this call. I've been looking at your faces when we pause and I see a shift happening. Camille, I'm just wondering, we have 2 minutes till I want to take the quick break before the demo. I'd love to know what's happening in your body, anything you want to add to any of this.
Yes, a couple of things. I just want to acknowledge that I know for some of you, trying to be like PC, but I'm just gonna say it. I know some of you might be saying, "Fuck you, Camille. I don't feel guilty. I'm experiencing racism, sexism, homophobia. It's real. I've been oppressed. I don't feel guilt. I'm upset. I'm pissed off." Yeah. Please know my sharing with you my experience of noticing my guilt isn't to dismiss anyone's experiences with oppression and marginalization. Those are real. Those are absolutely real. And what I came to find in my own experience, and as I dove into somatics, is that as a Black, autistic, Muslim woman, if my sense of safety, if my sense of calm was grounded in the eradication of sexism, racism, Islamophobia, ableism, all the isms, all the phobias, I was never going to be happy. I was always going to be trying to fix the next thing, trying to convince the next person, trying to change their mind. So what would it mean for me to be able to navigate a world that is strife with isms and phobias, with marginalization and oppression and discrimination? What does it mean for me to navigate that world from a place that is grounded, that is calm, where I'm not reflexively responding to all of those things all of the time? So yes, please know I see you. I feel you. I am you. I deal with those things. I grieve for what my children may experience when it comes to different phobias and isms they will encounter in this world. And as their mother, one of the things I want to model for them is how to notice when those things are happening and when they're not.
Thank you, Camille. I'm going to highlight that last sentence. She says, notice when they're happening, notice when they're not. That's a very important practice for staying embodied during global crisis. It's an important practice for staying embodied during personal crisis. It's not just one that's happening across the pond, one that's happening in your living room, in your neighborhood, in your city, in your relationships, in your body, right? When is it happening? When is it not? That second part, when is it not, is the hardest thing to somatically experience, because these bodies are meant to stay braced, to be prepared. And in the bracing, the actual gesture of bracing, it sends a signal to the adrenals that we must stay in fight or flight. And so when you look for the proof for a moment that it's not happening, even for 10 seconds, it can be 10 seconds. I've had clients that have lived through war, and there's these moments they can remember where for a couple minutes I didn't hear the bomb and their body settled. That's the magic of the body, is it's not about denying if these things are happening. It's not a matter of arguing, just like Camille said. It's a matter of noticing what's happening right now. And if it's actually happening right now, your body is going to beautifully go into a trauma response. It will fight, flight, freeze, or fawn for your survival. And that's why all of us are in this call right now, because we've had plenty of traumatic experiences and our trauma responses kicked in and saved us. What we need to practice is not that, because that's where the body just knows how to do that. We need to practice the other part. Can I notice when there isn't a threat? And can I support my body to release a little bit into that? So when a threat comes again, I have more capacity. I won't get as deeply traumatized, if at all. I'll recover quicker. My nervous system will be more resilient. I can metabolize the charge faster. So I just wanted to highlight that. Let's take a 2-minute break. So please use the bathroom, do whatever you need to do in 2 minutes. We'll come back in 2 minutes. Daniel and I will do a short demo. I'll do a group practice with everyone, and then we'll open up for some weaving, okay? So as you're coming back, again, really place your body the way it wants to just receive this. We're just witnessing Daniel and I. So your body will feel things as we work together. I love demos because they work on the people watching as well. So really witness, notice what arises in you. If I ask him a question or if he says something where that takes you in your own body, you can pendulate between us and your own sensational experience. Some things might shift for you. And I don't mean shift like good or bad, but just like something will move, something will happen. Okay. So Camille, can you spotlight us? Do you have a, okay. Do you have a hand?
Yep, I can do it.
Thanks, love. And then I'll say to you, Daniel, as well, do you feel comfortable? Do you feel like you're in a good place to start?
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll probably do 10 minutes or so, just a little kind of dip. And I wonder, just everything we're talking about, what's present right now? What wants to presence itself?
Well, I spent the break busying myself with things having nothing to do with this. And I can notice that the part of me that's addicted to those things, like unwrapping a new record I just ordered that just arrived and checking my email and looking at social media, is like, I got to come back to this now. I got to be present. And then the part of me that judges that is like, you see, you're not so hot after all, and all of the conversation that goes on, anything but just being present to, oh, okay, there's a part of me that would rather be anywhere but here.
Mm-hmm.
That's not particularly original or unique to this moment or circumstance.
That's right.
And
Pause there for a minute with me.
Yeah.
I'm curious, when you went to social media, can we drum that up again? Like, let's imagine going to it, see what you saw in your mind's eye.
I didn't actually go to social media. It was my email, though.
Okay, so you went to your email. What happens in your body, or what happened in your body when you went to your email?
Do you mind if I just navigate to it just for a second?
Do it. That'd be great. Yeah. Even right there, what are you feeling? Like, it's like your eyes get all big, you're looking at the screen. Like, what happens?
Yeah, there's a kind of, I can feel my pupils dilate. I can feel a certain kind of, the drug hits, the dopamine. I'm taken outside of myself. My focus is narrowed. I was thinking about identity when Camille was speaking, and the word has so many meanings, and I'm not here to unpack it, but quite aside from the very positive group belonging, orienting ourselves in the world meanings of that word, there's also the me I think I am,
Mm-hmm.
and the me that my mind thinks I am, equates myself with. And I noticed that when I go to the email, I know exactly who I am and who I'm supposed to be. I'm the guy I'm the guy who people are emailing, and I don't really care who that guy is, but he's going to respond and he knows what to do.
Let's hold that right there.
Here, my identity is just much more in question. And
that's right. So what is that? What happens physically when you know your role, when there's a predictability to it? What does that feel like?
I mean, it feels like, it's funny. The mind wants to call it like buckling down or getting down to work, or like nose to the grindstone. If I ask what the body, where it shows up in the body, it's like I'm bracing.
Mm-hmm. So let's stay right there. Let's track the bracing together. Tell me what parts of the body brace. And don't even describe them, just name the actual parts.
Well, I noticed that there's a pleasant anesthetic effect.
Where?
Well, it starts in my face and goes down into my shoulders.
Nice. So let's follow that. Tell me what else you notice.
there's sort of a familiar, very slight headache
Mhm.
that I identify that feels like home to me in some way.
Mhm.
A
Mhm.
certain kind of like thrumming, a low hum, of the me machine. That's the
Yeah.
noise.
So let's pause and feel those two things, this anesthetic
Yeah.
and then this like me machine, this familiar headache. Let's just notice that. And I love how you started off with bracing. Okay. And
I'd be curious to know the etymology of bracing and embracing, but we'll save that for another time.
Yeah, we'll save that. Let's find one place out of all those you named, one place that's wanting your attention that's bracing right now. Tell me where that is.
Like the me helmet, like
Perfect. Yeah.
the Star Wars trash compactor walls.
Hmm. So it's just even if your hands do that, what happens when your hands mimic that?
Oh, it's just a certain amount of like pleasure, pain, pleasure.
Hmm.
It's like not to take this metaphor too far, but there's a certain kind of bondage
Yeah,
that that I release into. That's like, oh,
that's right.
thank God, I'm being held now by my role, by my identity, by my purpose, by my familiar set of reactions, activities, personality traits, quirks,
Mhm.
all of that, and it kind of hurts, and it's kind of limiting, and more. Give me more.
Mhm. That's right. That's right. So let's pause there for a moment. I want everyone to notice watching. This is what we talk about when we say like containers and containments. This is containing him because what I was saying earlier about the helplessness, there's a lot of ambiguousness, unknownness, and helplessness in not having that containment. Okay. So let's play with that for a moment. So we feel the containment. What's it containing? What's right under or behind that bondage? What's the felt sense or the emotion or the words? Like what's in there? And notice how your head's being held by your hands now. It's very different than what you were doing before.
Right.
No, that's fine. I mean, you can do that. That might lead you to it. What does that feel like?
Well, I mean, I could hear the me machine saying, "I know what to do. I've got to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Keep doing it." And then, but my body collapsed into a kind of, I'm tired.
Yeah, let's stay right there. Let's show me how the tired looks. Yeah, even if just holding your head is perfect. See what it feels like to hold your tired. And I would invite everyone here to do the same if it resonates. Feel where you're tired and see how that wants to be held or supported. Whether it's with pillows, your hands, the couch, a wall, the floor. And just tell us, Daniel, when you're ready, how does your tired feel as you hold it?
Well, what's very interesting, and I'm sure you'll be able to do something lovely with this. As I hold it, we trade places, and it holds me. Now I'm inside of it. It can't be held. It's
Mm-hmm.
much too big. I'm already inside of it. I was trying to hold it. I was trying to keep it in,
Yeah.
and then inside of it, inside of the fatigue, like now that's the room I'm in.
Yes, that's right.
I see it as a kind of womb or a circular spherical room that I'm inside of. It's got some bounce to it. I can feel the bounciness of the couch all of a sudden.
Nice. So pause there.
And
We'll
yeah,
pause a minute. Let's feel that bounciness and like even how your body's doing this. It's like living through you now. What does that tiredness want to do? Does it want to lay on the couch? Does it want to open your arms? Like what is it? Just follow it for a moment. What does it do?
no, I'm not tired anymore. It's not
Oh,
tired.
good. So what happens now?
Well, what I noticed once I was inside the tiredness is that there's just like a lot of sadness.
Yeah, let's be right there together. And you tell me where you feel that. Where does that emerge as you sit with that?
Very bizarre image I get.
What is it?
I always come up with images before sensations. You know that.
Yeah.
It's almost like like I've been dipped in Vaseline. Like it's coating me,
Mm.
and it's viscous, and
Mhm.
and there's just no wiping it off. Like there is no Swiffer picker upper there's no size bounty sheet that's gonna get this off.
Let's follow that.
They get it all over everything else.
Let's follow that viscous Vaseline that's just covering you. And let's just see what that does as we let it do that. And tell me what happens next.
Well, I can both feel and picture my pores opening up and becoming more absorbent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And just admitting it. And admitting is one of I'm just going to do something slightly mental for a second while I start with the body. Admitting is one of my favorite words because it means two completely opposite but complementary things at once. If I admit something, it means I let something out that I was holding in, right? I admit the truth. But if I'm a bouncer and I admit somebody, I let them in.
Yeah.
And it feels like the sadness is granted admission.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
And by saying it, I'm admitting it.
I love that.
The other direction.
So let's feel those two things. And this is the exhibitionism, right? You're exhibiting your sadness by admitting it to us, and you're inviting it in. You're not exiling it with that bracing. And just see where it goes as you let it in. And as we know that you're letting it in, like you're telling us what happens.
There's pain in here.
Yeah. Just feel your hand like instinctively pressing and moving.
And I also feel I can feel that my voice is at a loss, that there are no words that can exempt me from this or
Yeah.
can't. I mean, I can barely. Well, first of all, maybe I'm still just talking not to feel it, but I could just feel the sort of the weakness, or you could say tenderness, or fallibility, or mortality of my voice box. That it's
Yeah.
that it's got its limits.
Let's feel that together. We only have a couple minutes. Let's feel that sadness, especially the limiting of the words, and no amount of words is taking you away from the sadness right now. And see how we can support that while being together. Like, can you open your eyes?
All right.
Take me in. What happens when you open your eyes? What happens with the sadness? Does it go away? Does it stay? Does it grow? What does it do?
It settles down.
What does that feel like? Tell me what settling down feels like.
It's like it finds a place to sit in me.
Where is that? Is it right where your hands are?
I guess so. That's where they went. So
yeah,
like just kind of taking a seat.
Yeah, love that.
Like an honored seat, like a not a seat that feels exiled, like just a seat that's
Let's feel that
included, but it doesn't have to. It's welcome here.
Let's see what it feels like just to, again, admitting to us your sadness just took a seat at the table, like it's welcome here, and how it feels to feel it taking a seat. What happens? How does the quality shift as it takes a seat?
I mean, this isn't technically a feeling, but I feel wiser.
Go
Like-
go with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
You feel wiser.
There's
Hold on. Stay with me. Stay with me. for a minute.
I have my full cabinet.
Okay. What does that feel like?
Uh, the word that comes up is powerful.
Okay, notice where in my body do I feel that? Like, how does my body tell me I feel powerful? What's the felt sense of that?
The underside of my legs and
Mhm.
my seat, sitting on the couch.
Beautiful.
Sense of being on more of a throne, and I don't mean that in the sense of ruling or dominating,
Mhm.
but more just
Yeah.
like dominion over my physical space and over the life that I have both chosen and not chosen, and
Absolutely.
the choices I'm making and the costs of those choices,
Yeah.
and the choices that the costs uh, then result in, just all of it. Like,
Well, let's pause there because we have to close the demo. But before we do, I want to sit there with you for a moment. Let's just see what it's like just to feel like my sadness took a seat. I feel more embodied with my sadness sitting here with me. And we're witnessing you through that. You're with us at the same time.
yeah. And it feels like there's nothing I have to do.
That's it. Yeah.
I don't know what I'll do next.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting compared to how you started with the computer emails?
Yeah.
Yeah. Gorgeous. Can we land right there for now? Okay. Thank you, Daniel. Emojis are already going up for you, but I always encourage emojis after someone does a demo because it's so vulnerable to share yourself. Like, it's really nice to be received after sharing yourself. So if you want to check those out, it feels really good, especially on gallery view. Oh, Daniel is so gorgeous. I mean, his body just did what he was talking about around restoring integrity. Did everyone notice that? Right? I'm going to walk you through it. I'm going to give you the brief. Started with a sense of bracing, this awareness of bracing that came from the reflexive, I'm going to go to my emails, to something known. That was really important when he reported that, because the helplessness that arises from a crisis you don't have direct control over, the helplessness is looking for resolve. It's looking for something it knows. And I love that he said familiar headache, because the state we go into around heartbreak and helplessness is often a constricted state. It's not a comfortable state. We use that word too loosely. It's a familiar one. So I love that he said a familiar headache, because it's familiar. Y'all can feel it right now. You can track your own body and think of the things you do reflexively to temporarily soothe yourself from helplessness and heartbreak. It's constrictive, right? That was amazing. As he felt what's behind the bracing, what happens if I don't look at the email, within a minute, right, an exhaustion emerged, a fatigue emerged. And he went from this to this. That's a big physiological difference, isn't it? Something pressing you back from falling apart to actually falling into yourself. The body surrendering its tension is what we saw. And then the sadness was able to emerge, which I thought was gorgeous. And I didn't even expect the sadness to take a seat. That was like such a glorious surprise, because that's what we've been talking about, is how do we show up with these parts? My goal was not to resolve him of his sadness. That wasn't the goal. It wasn't to get rid of his sadness. It was so he could feel his sadness and his sadness could be with him as he does his Instagram live tomorrow, as he sits on his couch.
Can I ask you a
Daniel.
question, please?
Yeah.
So as I remarked, and as you've seen before, often what happens when you ask me what's happening in my body is I get an image first. My subconscious or unconscious throws up a picture. And when I connect with that picture, that's when I can figure out what my body is saying. Have you encountered that before? I mean, my first the way the question formed itself in my head is like, is that okay? Is there something wrong with that?
Yeah.
I'm pretty confident there's nothing wrong with it, but
Yeah.
I'm curious to know what how, and it might be different for different people, but for me, it seems that the imaginative comes along, support and help and translate for the part of me that I'm not as fluent in.
So I'm going to speak directly to that, and you're absolutely right. When everybody hear the word titration, right? Titration means, it's Camille's favorite word. It's Camille's word of the year. And so titration is all about baby steps, just another way to say baby steps. We have an acronym in the somatic experiencing world called SIBAM. And part of that acronym is the I, which means image. SIBAM, which includes S, sensation. So it's sensation, image, behavior, affect, and meaning. It's these 5 different ways that the body will self-report to our conscious mind, to our witnessing. And what tends to happen, what Daniel just said was true, image is like a baby step towards sensation. So when you're looking at horror, when you're looking at crisis, when you know something's happening, and you reflexively go to talking about it, you're meaning making, you're in the M. So you're not feeling it. I mean, you are, your body's feeling it, but you haven't consciously embodied that feeling yet because you went right to the M. It takes you just next to the feeling, right? Or you see images, but you're not feeling it. You're just seeing the images like he was. The beautiful thing about the somatic work is we learn to connect these ways the body reports how it feels to root sensation. And that's why when he would give an image, my question would be, where do you feel that image? Where do you feel the Vaseline? What does it feel like to let it coach your body, right? When you see the bondage, what does it feel like? And his hands would just do it. So it's this portal, like he's suggesting, into sensation, which we reflexively try to avoid, okay? Because what's the sensation we're avoiding? We just saw with him, sadness. And sadness somatically is expansive. There's a lot of space to it, actually. It causes us to kind of drop and fall. And one of my friends, Asha Frost, has a brilliant medicine she's brought to us from her elders called when you feel low, you get lower. Now, how opposite is that to our culture? So when you feel that sadness, when you feel that fatigue and it's pulling you down, we saw with his body as he came back on the couch and felt the couch more, we would tend to feel that and reflexively check our email, reflexively meaning make, get divisive. This side means this person is this. I'm going to dehumanize that one. I'm going to humanize that one. We go into all this way to try to renegotiate from feeling that helpless expansiveness. But when we go into it, like Daniel just saw, what we saw him just do, not always as quickly as his body did, but the body will integrate it, right? Integrity. It will make it part of the body's experience rather than an exiled state. And what I witness a lot of people doing when there's crises is from the exiled state comes all these behaviors, pointing the fingers at people, having certain opinions about themselves. I'm not doing enough, or they're not doing enough, or I should do more. Compulsiveness, addictions, all these things express themselves as a way to try to settle these nervous systems that are super dysregulated and don't know how to just break into the dysregulation, like we saw him get to just do, just to deepen into it and give it space. And then the body does what it knows how to do. So what we saw him do just now, that's literally the embodiment of crisis. We saw how his body's holding this, right? It's not about getting rid of it. It's about integrating it, bringing it online as you continue to watch, if you do, as you continue to speak, as you do, as you continue to post, whatever, or as you continue to avoid whatever it is you're doing to navigate this, you do it with your body and with those parts coming in. Okay.
I would imagine that the true test of this would be to conjure the most upsetting meaning that I have collected around, say, the current crisis. And there are, and for each of us, there's going to be different things that upset us. For some people, it's the images of grieving parents, or posters of missing people, or images of war cabinets and politicians. For me, it's connected to feeling alienated from my own group and feeling like I can't get through to people who I would like to be connected with, but feeling on the outs and imagining that they hate me and me starting to hate them. These are the meanings
That's right.
that send me into the biggest stressful tailspin. So I'm glad we got to do it with sort of a milder example. And I know that on the court of life, life is not going to serve me up such gentle servings all the time.
That's right.
It's going to go cut right to the quick.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that dysregulates me the most. And so I guess building my capacity at a more entry level.
That's exactly right.
Only way that I'll ever hope to be able to bring this to that.
And that's a really important piece to bring in, because that's why my logo is the spiral, because we start on the periphery, right? When we go straight to the core, we don't have the capacity for it. So we start on the periphery. What's showing itself to you now? It was just his emails. His emails were the beginning of walking that labyrinth to get inside, closer to the core. And each time, the nervous system gets a little more resilience. So I'm going to pause for a minute. I'm definitely going to go over at least 10, 15 minutes. So if anyone needs to hop off, I respect that. You can watch the rest of it through the replay. Thank you for being here. We're going to do at least 10 more minutes, if not 15 more, because I want to do a group practice and then hear some input. The group practice is going to be pretty quick because you've been doing it the whole time. I've been asking you to pause. We started with the pillow. You followed Daniel. You're witnessing all this. Now I'm going to turn it to all of you. Okay. Notice right now, where do you find yourself bracing? So with Daniel, we had context. We heard what we call auto-regulation, which is like the thing we do to distract. That was the email for him. So we don't even just know what it is for you. Just look to your body. Where are you bracing? Pick one place that shows itself to you, whichever place calls you. And what I want you to do is support the bracing. So instead of it bracing, which is the body kind of like supporting itself by itself, let the bracing be held by the chair. Put your head against the wall, lay on a bed, like really play with holding the bracing. I'm gonna give everyone like a half of a minute to find the best way to be held right now. And now I want you to see how it feels, what emerges, just like we saw with Daniel, as you let the bracing be held. What emerges? What is the body trying to keep from coming out? What is the body trying to protect you from feeling? And just breathe into that feeling, whatever it is. It can be joy. It can be rage. It can be sorrow. It can be overwhelm, sadness. Whatever it is, see what it's like to give it permission just to move through you a little bit, to feel into it. And see what it does. See how it expresses itself. Maybe through movement, just like we saw with Daniel. Maybe it's image, right? Maybe it's sensation, like you feel something emerge. Maybe sound comes out. If you're having a really difficult time with this, get the pillow while you hold yourself. Feel the pillow in front of you and hug it. And if your eyes are closed, open your eyes and take in the room. Don't look at the screen right now, but look at the room around you. So you're letting the bracing be held while you're taking in the room around you. You're seeing where you are. And as you start to see where you are, feel where you are. And that's not a demand, it's more of like a curiosity. Like, what's the temperature like on your skin? What does it smell like? What's the texture of the thing holding you? Is there something visually that's really pleasant? And where can you feel that? Like, notice the little anchors of sensation that come in as you start attuning to where you are. Not where we are, not the stories you've been seeing or in your mind, but where you are right now. What parts of you, can feel where you are? And while you feel those, simultaneously feeling that you're held. You're laying down, you're opening this up while you're feeling where you are. And just notice what happens. This is where the mystery comes in. This is where I don't know what's going to happen. But we're not bracing against the helplessness. We're not avoiding it. We're going into the bracing. We're letting it be held so it can maybe soften. Maybe it braces more. It's different for everybody. And then we're physically feeling where we are in the space. And then we're letting our body do with that it wishes to do with it, whatever it does. And at this point, I would like people to start writing in to Marika. So you just click on your chat and you click a name, you click Marika, and just tell her what you're experiencing. There is no right or wrong experience. Opinions about what's happening will not be read. I just want to hear what's happening in your body. When I mean opinions, I mean about the crisis or the situation. I just want to hear what's happening in your body right now with us as we do the practice. She'll share as they come in. And she'll share anonymously.
Sadness. Tension is lessening, softening, overwhelmed. Bracing in my upper back. Yawns, charge, laughter, heat. Relief and calibration. Tightness in the stomach is loosening. Tears, grief, shock, constriction, pain. Grief, release. I can breathe more fully. Deep pain in my chest. Feeling waves of dark anger, seeing and feeling waves, sound coming out. Lonely. A tired apathy and annoyance at environment. Loosening of chronic pain flare up. Struggling to let go of tension in my jaw. I feel heavy, like my body is full of sand.
Give us a couple more, Marika.
Chest feels tight and hot. My sadness is being seen. I was avoiding and now I feel peace.
So those two go together really well. My sadness is being seen. I was avoiding, now I'm feeling peace. I want to elaborate on this for a moment, then we're going to start closing. Okay. So all these things that I wrote down that I'm hearing that she's reading: sadness, overwhelm, grief, loosening, calibration, tightness, heat, heaviness, breath, grief, sadness, tension. All those things we want to understand right now. Our job is just to witness them right now. The mind is going to think that we all need to be calibrated. We all need to be integrated. We all need to be releasing. No, that will happen. Everybody knows how to release, but it happens. Remember I said earlier, everyone has a different level of capacity to metabolize this. So the first thing I'm introducing to you that you're all doing, who reported really well, is you're feeling, you're allowing this to emerge. What the bracing was kind of protecting you from feeling, you're allowing to emerge. That's huge. That's huge. As you allow that to emerge, then from there you get curious. What does it need to be supported? Does it need a hug? Does it need to eat? Does it need a break? Does it need to listen to good music? Does it need to go on the computer where I know my role? This is not about not doing those things. It's about I'm witnessing and feeling the thing that was hidden, and now I'm going to live with that thing. And I'm not saying it's easy, but that's the work. It's not to resolve that thing, it's to witness it and then do what you need to do until the body can integrate it. When Daniel said the sadness takes a seat, that's different from the sadness being so sensationally overwhelming that he can't be with it. So when your grief that you're finally feeling gets too overwhelming, don't force yourself. Listen to your capacity. What's your capacity to experience the grief? It will hit a ceiling. And then you do what feels instinctual. You eat a yummy snack, you get a hug, you watch something funny, whatever we do. But you do it while embodying the grief. And as long as you can stay embodied to it and do whatever you need to comfort yourself, that grief eventually will take a seat with you. It won't be overwhelming your body. It will be with your body. It will be a moving, equally contributing part of your body. So as I'm saying this, we're embodying what emerges as we witness and experience horror and crises and pain, right? And by embodying what emerges and responding and being with it, even laying it down for a few minutes, we give it the opportunity to move through us, show us what it needs, and then eventually it gets to integrate. As long as what comes up gets the opportunity to integrate, whether it takes a couple minutes or a couple days, you're not going to find yourself in an active trauma response. You're not going to find yourself in compulsive cycles, burning out, watching the news, or avoiding. You're just not. You're going to find yourself in a place of more resilience where you have yourself, all of yourself, your sorrow and your joy, your grief and your anger, your pleasure and your frustration. It will be there. I want to invite Camille to add anything before we close. And Camille's adorable daughter is here, so just please look at the screen.
Khadijah says hi. I just, the words you use, grief, for me is just really so powerful and resonant, particularly as it comes to when we watch horror, when we watch global crises, when we watch the devastating effects of marginalization, oppression, discrimination, all those things. And I've shared this quote before, and you think I know who said it. I can't remember, but it really supports me. And the quote is, the task of healing the world is not mine to finish, nor is it mine to ignore. And to me, that dovetails really nicely what Luis was just talking about, how we can hold seemingly contradictory sensations in our body at the same time. And for me, that quote speaks to a balance. I can hold both. I can see the things I can't affect, and I can see the things I can. And there is that middle path. I don't have to be on one extreme of ignoring everything. I don't have to be on the other extreme of constantly being vigilant, trying to change everybody or everything all the time. So I will leave you with that, the idea of a middle path, a balance of, yeah.
Thank you, Camille. Daniel, just like a minute, do you have something you want to add to start closing us with? You're muted.
Since we're on grief, one of the things I said in the video that you responded to, Luis, that sparked this idea, I quoted Stephen Jenkinson, the great Canadian author and cultural activist, who says, "Heartbreak is a skill." And in times like this, I'm adding this, although he said it as well, it's a requisite skill, actually. We need it. And what I say about grief is it's the great conveyor belt. And this is where grief and integrity link up. It's the great conveyor belt. What do I mean by that? It's like a moving sidewalk that moves us swiftly and inexorably and with great intention and love, and ruthless compassion from the land of should have been or shouldn't have been or should be and shouldn't be to the land of here we are. This is what is. And it does so through the body, and it does so by fleshing out mental insistences and attachments and even identities and illusions that cannot survive the migration to this new land called reality and the present. And that's true whether we're mourning the death of someone we love, or whether we're mourning the death of a cherished illusion about the world, or whether we're mourning the pain and suffering that is thrust in our face every day, whether we choose to watch it or not. So, and grief is a full body catastrophe experience. It requires, it does not, you can't half step with grief. So, and it doesn't look the same for everybody. It's not snot coming out of your nose and, you know, being performatively sad. That's not, you know, but it does slow you way down. And, yeah, in times like this, we better get friendly with it, because it's got more in store for us, I think.
Yeah, and I'll end on that piece as well about the more in store, right? One way that Camille and I teach trauma work to people is we're looking to befriend activation, so that when we live this life that's very sensational, that's very big, that's full of grief and pain and shock and all these things that will happen through our lives, if we befriend activation and we learn how to be with it, just like the skill of heartbreak Daniel's speaking to, which is a very activating experience, when we befriend activation, we experience what we started experiencing here together in this call, what we saw Daniel experience. The activation just takes a seat. It settles inside of us. It's not something we throw out into the universe and release. Even though we talk about releasing trauma a lot, I even say that. It's more about the trauma integrates. Our own life force energy takes a seat inside of us. So if we can start befriending these big, inconvenient, uncomfortable sensations that arise from inevitable events, not preventable, inevitable, we want to understand that through that relationship with those, we change how we feel in the world, whether or not the world changes as fast as we want it to. And that's our birthright. That's what we have an ability to affect. And that's what we all deserve. We deserve to have bodies that feel good, even when the world isn't where we need it to be at the moment. We deserve to have that body. And then from there, we move. Okay? I'm so grateful for all of you. I've been looking at your faces throughout this whole experience, and I've been seeing tears and smiles and laughter and people lying down. And I just want to send my gratitude. The reason we're having this is technology, and the reason we're able to have this is technology. So I have gratitude right now for the strange magician of technology that allows a box to transmit each other's faces and to each other's worlds. So let this be a living example. If you want to scroll through the faces while I say this, the same technology that can divide us and create a lot of fear and overwhelm can also be highly co-regulating. Can be an amazing way to connect and deepen our ability to show up together as a human race for whatever we're going through. So I'm really grateful that you all showed up and you brought your hearts and your patience and your time, and you listened and you held with us. It really, really moves me. If anyone wants to say goodbye, I'm going to allow unmuting just for a goodbye.
Quick, Luis, before I assume people know where to find you, but I just wanted to tell people that if you want to connect with me further, including
absolutely, please do that. Yeah.
So walkwithdaniel.com.
I'm going to put in the chat right now.
If you're sort of walk curious, I do a free 15-minute consult. So that's, you can DM me on Instagram, but then you'll be like everybody else, and it's very likely I won't be able to respond because it's just, there's a lot right now. But yeah, thank you all for welcoming me into this space, and thank you, Luis and Camille and the whole team. And
yeah, thank you, Daniel, for taking the time. Thank you, Camille, for taking the time. Thank you, Marika and Evan, for co-regulating with people through the chat the whole time and holding the space with us. Ooh. That's the end of today's episode. Now let's take a moment to notice where we feel the episode in our bodies. Close your eyes. Take a breath. And let whatever wants to come up, come up. And remember, those sensations hold the wisdom that we're looking for. If you want to go deeper, visit holisticlifenavigation.com.